Hey, oh, excuse me. Of course, I have to belch as soon as I say hello, right? Good morning, good morning, good morning. How are you? Happy Friday Eve. Yes, we're going to stay consistent, even though I'm not really worried about Friday coming since I'm not doing that quote unquote um, actual job thing anymore, but it's still Friday Eve and it's 4th of July Eve, so I know a lot of people are making plans to make a long weekend out of this holiday weekend and what have you. So hey, happy Friday Eve, happy Thursday. Anyway, all right, nugget for today is your allowance. Your allowance. We've been talking this week about you moving within your entitlement. And as we've been saying, just as a little refresher for those of you that may not have caught the previous three broadcasts, moving within your entitlement is predicated on your allowance and your benefits that the entity gives you when you are moving because of official business. And it's normally the military term that tells you to move within your entitlement. But we're talking about it from a spiritual point of view, from moving within your entitlement in God. All right. So we are constantly, as I've said the past few days, we are constantly moving. I just realized, this is probably not a good color since my screen is green. But anyway, we are constantly moving within our official capacity as ambassadors to the kingdom of God. So we're always moving within our entitlement. And as I said a few moments ago, it's predicated on your allowances and your benefits. We talked about benefits yesterday. Today, I wanted to talk about allowances. When we think about allowances, I personally instantly go back to being a child, and I got an allowance once a week. I think every Friday I got an allowance. I remember it starting at 50 cents a week, but remember, like, I'm kind of old. So back in the day, 50 cents would buy you some good candy. Now I won't even buy you a candy bar. That's really sad. But anyway, and my allowance was predicated on the fact that I did my chores. So it was basically to teach responsibility. You had chores to do during the course of the week. You were supposed to do your homework. And as long as you did everything that was assigned to you, that you were responsible for doing, you got your allowance. Now, as you progressed and you got older, the allowance got bigger. And then for me, my allowance totally stopped when I became a teenager because I went to work. I was just like, this allowance thing ain't working for me. Okay. I mean, it had increased from the 50-cent thing, but nevertheless, I needed a job. I was that person, and I'm veering off a little bit, but I was that person that, I don't like to have to ask for things. That's just me. I like to have my own. I like to be able to do it myself. And I have had to learn in trafficking in the heavenlies that I have to ask. I have to ask God for permission to do what I want to do, basically. So, like my mindset was always, I'll do it myself. I'll make sure I have my own, and whatever I need to accomplish, I'll accomplish. Well, when you're trafficking in the heavenlies, you are not given that broad of permission. All right, you do have permission to work within the parameters that God gives you, but it's really, really important that before you make major decisions, even if you have the ability to take care of it, that you inquire of God before you do it. Why is that important? Because you don't know what tomorrow holds, and He does. I told you guys the story about 2 years ago when I was telling everybody, I am leaving my job December 31st. It was going to be December 31st, 2023. And I was at a retreat, and I was just laying there early in the morning, and God said, you've told everybody that you were leaving your job December 31st. How come you haven't asked me? Now, I'm way grown, okay? And I had made a decision in my mind that this was it. I was tired of it. I wasn't going to do it anymore. And that was the end. That year was going to be the end. But I had not inquired of the Lord. All right. And that was a vital, vital piece that I needed to do. So when he said that, I immediately responded in all honesty, because I didn't want you to tell me to stay. Okay. That was it. It was like I knew, because I had walked that walk before a couple of years prior to that, he may say, no, now is not the time, or to stay. And all he responded to me was, trust me. That was it. Trust me. So here we are, fast forward 2 years later, all right? And he had made sure that I was set up in position that when I left properly. So now that I'm transitioning from it, I'm transitioning with blessings. All right, because I was obedient to hear his voice. So that's why it's important to, even though you may have the wherewith to do what you think you want to do, you need to consult the Lord. And so the allowance that I am being given at this point in time in my life is predicated on my obedience to God, to hear his voice, to consult him, even though I didn't want to, but to be obedient to his leading and his directive once I did. So it's important that you recognize and understand that your allowance, just as if you were a child, because you are a child of his, your allowance is predicated on your obedience. On your obedience. You're welcome, Deborah. It is predicated on your obedience. All right. Just as a child, you were obedient to do your chores. You were obedient to do your homework. You were obedient to carry out the responsibilities that were given to you. Well, now you are grown up, but you're still God's child. Be obedient to what he is giving you to attend to, and to the time frame that he is calling you to, where it comes to that, and recognize and understand he will give you great allowances, okay, for you to move within your entitlement. All right. All right. That's it for today. I hope that that blessed you. I'm grateful to God for the lessons that I have learned and are yet still learning on this journey with him. And that's part of it. All right. All right. You have an incredibly fantabulous day in the Lord. You know I love you with the love of Christ. Not going to do a doggone thing about it. And I am blessed to be able to share with you.